The witch is back. Hello, my name is Christy and I am a witch. Today we are going to be talking about elemental energy, sensing it, raising it, and using it. So what is elemental energy? It is the energy that comes off of the elements. Did you just belch in my video? Rude. They're only here for snacks. Okay, so elemental energy. I have mentioned in my previous videos that I like to use those for basically everything. For cleansing, for casting circles, for consecrating, all of the processes. I try to use all of the elements together or in the ritual at some point. So today we're going to talk about some ways that you can familiarize yourself with each of the elements, with their energies, their individual energies, and then you can work with them more easily. There are often different meanings and interpretations to things. For example, the pentacle, but for me, I like the interpretation that it is the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. So let's just start. I start my circle castings normally with the direction which is associated with air, so we'll just work that way. So with air, it is associated with the east. It is the element of clarity and wisdom and logic. Yes, miss. So a couple of different ways that you can familiarize yourself with this element. Obviously, breathing. Doing breathing exercises in different spaces, getting familiar with how the air interacts with the room, with the space, or if you're outside, how it interacts with the things around you differently, sitting with that, sitting with the breath, and just seeing how it makes you feel. Another great way to familiarize yourself with the element of air is to feel a breeze, feel the wind. Try going outside when there's a light breeze. Sit with it. How does it make you feel? How does the air feel? How does the breeze feel? Then if you can, go out on another time when it's a stronger gust of wind. How does that make you feel? Does it feel different? Recording how it made you feel and how you think the element felt in like a journal or your grimoire, book shadows, whatever, is a great way for you to refer back. Anytime that you can do these practices facing their direction, so air would be east, you might get a stronger sense of that elemental direction, and it will also help you orient yourself in the space that you're in, which helps a lot. Next, we're going to move to the south, which is the element of fire. Fire is a transformative, creative energy, but it's also a destructive energy. It is a very strong energy as well. The way that I like to familiarize myself with the fire element is to light a candle. It doesn't have to be this kind of candle. It could be any kind of candle that you have. Candles are a very contained way to sense the element of fire. Of course, always practice fire safety because it's crazy, and that's why the element itself can be a little chaotic. It can go from creative and transformative to very destructive very quickly. So when I'm sitting with candles, when I'm meditating with candles, I like to gaze into the candle, see how that makes me feel, and then I like to feel the actual warmth, the energy that is coming off of the candle. You can feel it. This is a great way to start to familiarize yourself with the element of fire. If you can do this on larger scales as well, build up, see how different ones make you feel. For example, if you have like a bonfire or a fireplace in your house, then you can feel a larger element of fire. But start small and build up, because then you can feel the energetic difference between a smaller fire and a larger one. Fire's element is south, so if you can sit with your candle facing the south, then you will feel a stronger connection to the element, to its direction. Next, we are going to move on to water. Water is an element of emotions, intuition, reflection. My favorite way to associate myself better with water is to drink more water. It's taking that energy into yourself. It is hydrating yourself, which, let's be honest, a lot of us don't do enough of. I am very guilty of that. After you start drinking more water, seeing how that makes you feel on a regular basis by just drinking more water, Then also try sitting with different water in your mouth. Like, that sounds weird, but like try sitting with distilled water versus like bottled water. Of course, be safe. Don't like drink swamp water or anything like that. Ocean water, I would not recommend that, but just sitting with different types of water. Of course, taking baths is another great way to literally immerse yourself in the element. Rain, storm water, sitting with that. And even if you don't want to take like a whole bath, sitting with it, meditating with it, you can put your hands in it, you can feel the water, sit with it and see how it makes you feel. Again, I recommend recording this, documenting it, and then reflecting on it later, especially with water because it's a reflection element. Okay, the next element, earth. Earth's direction is the north. It is an element of grounding, of stability, of fertility. My personal favorite way to associate myself better with the earth element is houseplants. I don't have really the space for like an abundant garden, but houseplants are a way for me to bring some of that earth energy inside, tending for them, repotting them when they need to be. Anytime that you can put your hands in soil and feel that energy, see how it makes you feel, is a great way to associate with earth. Another great way is, if you can, to go outside barefoot and do earthing practices. So you are literally just feet on the earth, if it's grass, if it's dirt, if it's sand, any of those things. You also, if you have access to different things, you can see how different ones feel for you. If sand has a different energetic response to you than dirt does or grass does, reflect with each one. Try to at least mentally document, if not physically write down, jot down how each one made you feel when you were sitting with it. This is a much more contained version of earth, but it's what I have. So, and finally, spirit. Some people count spirit as an element. Some people don't count spirit as an element. I like to be you do you, you know. Raising this spirit energy for me means raising your own energy, or raising ancestral energy or deity energy, whatever you prefer for that. But for me, I usually try to raise my own energy. There are some great ways to do that. Raising energy is one of the key components for my personal practices. You want to raise that energy so that you can use it. So some ways that you can do that are putting on good music, or playing music. A lot of people like to play instruments. I sometimes dabble in ukulele. Playing music that you like, music that brings you joy, and then if it is danceable music, dance to it. Dancing is a great way to raise energy. You don't have to do any professional choreography if that's not your jam. Just move around. Move to the music the way that the music makes you feel, and then you'll feel that like energetic, vibrational uplift. That is raising energy. Doing things that raise your vibrations raises your personal energy, and when you feel better, when you are happier, it's going to be easier for you to raise energy. I will say that you can raise different types of energy for different reasons. Some people, if you want to raise an angry energy, you can do that. If you're a threefold practitioner, then you won't want to probably use anything that you would associate as negative. I personally have a lot of anxiety, and I don't want to do that. I want to just chill and make myself a happier person, and that's just my personal preference for my mental health. Sometimes for me, raising energy is just doing things that make me happy and putting myself in a really happy state before I start to work with my sacred space, with my magical practices. It's putting yourself in a really good mood, because then you're gonna feel that energy kind of radiating off of you, and then you can use that. So if there's something that brings you joy, that makes you feel like uplifted, you can do that before your magical workings. If you work with ancestral energy or deity energy, it's going to be different depending on what you're working with, what your culture, what their culture is. Look into different ways that you can invoke that energy to use. It really depends. It really depends on what you're working with. But you can raise your own personal energy first, and then it kind of amplifies your voice, your energy, so that when you call upon other energies to come in and assist you, then you got a megaphone to reach out to them. Lastly, I want to talk about grounding energy because it is very important. There were times early in my way back baby witch days that I would do a bunch of spell work and raise a bunch of energy, and then I couldn't sleep for like 3 days because you still have all of that energy in you. And that can even happen when you are working with elemental energy. If it's not your own energy, if you're using an elemental energy, you're kind of harnessing it through you, and sometimes you will have too much of it kept in your body. So doing grounding practices. Grounding practices are meditations where you are basically grounding yourself, and you can send some of that energy back into the earth. Earthing is a grounding practice, so if you are connecting with the earth, it's already going to ground, it's going to earth that energy back in. For me, when I am doing grounding after any work, or just when I feel like I have too much energy, I like to sit on the ground and really feel my connection to the earth. And then I like to rub my hands together because you can feel the energy in your hands, and then put those on the ground and just feel the energy going back into the earth. It just helps me kind of bring myself down to earth, bring my energy down, so that I can sleep at night, basically. So after you have familiarized yourself with each of the elements, you might find that you have a stronger connection to one over another. And if you do, that's great. But I also would then recommend really working with your weakest link. Whichever one you struggled with the most, yes, you can use the one that you had the highest connection to, but whichever one you struggled with the most, if you strengthen that connection, even if you don't get it to the same level as your strongest one, you will then find a better balance with all of the elements. So if you, for example, I personally struggled with air the most. It seems the simplest, but it was really hard for me to meditate for a long time, especially with breathing exercises. And maybe it's because I have asthma. So breathing can be a little bit of a challenge for me sometimes. So I really had to sit and work with that one a lot so that I felt better about it, so I felt more balanced, even though it was not my strongest connection. After you have associated with each element, after you have worked with each one and you've familiarized yourself with the different energies that they use, then you can start applying that to your magic. If you're doing any works that require a lot of grounding energy, you'll want to use the earth element. If you are doing something that is creative or destructive, you want to use fire. If you want to do something that raises your intuition, your psychic ability, you want to use water. You'll become more attuned to each one and where each one would be best applied to. That's not to say that you can't like use candle magic for everything like I do anyways. You can, but if you want to draw an element in particular out to use its strengths, it's a great way to use their energy. I also personally like to thank each element after I have used its energy. Personal preference, it just makes me feel better because we're using something, and when I can, I like to give something back, give an offering back to each element. So yeah, that is elemental energy like 101, those basics from my perspective. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it helped you, gave you some ideas, or was just entertaining to you, if not, or inspirational for your own different perspective or ideas. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.